from beautiful East Tennessee in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. You are listening to the Sherry Voluntary Podcast. And if you've been in the anarcho-libertarian circles for more than probably a week or two, you have probably heard of my guest today. He was born and raised in Texas, and he was involved in gangs as a youth, and he eventually got out of one of the two most vicious gangs in the United States, and that would be the Democratic Party. He, like many young men, decided to form a band, and the difference was, unlike a lot of others, he was actually good at it. So in 2014, he, with some friends, formed the band Backwards, and the rest is sort of history. He's still making history, right, Eric?
Absolutely. Trying to. That's what we're trying.
So, Mr. Eric July, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious about this. And I asked you when we met before at the 1000th episode event in Orlando. I'm sure you don't remember. You met a lot of people. But July as a last name.
Yeah.
Like, that's your real last name?
Yeah, that's my real last name. A lot of people think it's a pen name, but it's not. It's my real last name. It's actually Creek, Muskogee, or whatever you want to, say, a Native American, so to speak. Is where that name sorts of originates here. And yeah, it's not a pen name. A lot of people think it's a pen name. They think I made it up or it's a rap name or something like that. No, July is my actual last name. It's not too many of us that are out there, but again, the ones that are Creek, so, so where that background sort of comes from.
We're related then because my great grandmother is Creek. She was
nice.
Creek, the Machis. Creek.
Nice.
So,
very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
We look so different, though. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Well, very different.
Yeah. Well, speaking of race, just to get into it a little bit, since, you are a brown person and I'm a not brown person, I feel like it's sort of one of those things I get asked about a lot because I'm a woman, and I'm sure you probably get asked about it a lot because you're a black guy. So,
right.
But I noticed in your, write up on like Wikipedia, things like that, and that you were actually a campaigner for Obama. Is that correct?
Yep. Back at Memphis, a big time, fan campaigner for him when I was out there, and it was silly, and looking back at it in retrospect, I really thought that I was doing something positive back when I was doing. But yeah, I was campaigner for him. It's not anything necessarily unusual, definitely for college blacks, definitely in that area in Memphis, University of Memphis. But more so, just out of black folks in general with, you see the election results, 90% plus voting for, Democratic Party election after election. So that's where I was at. And, grew up a Democrat for the most part, for pretty much for the all part, just like a lot of predominantly, black families and whatnot. So didn't really get that second sort of, you only get one narrative when you grow up in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's how it was. Democrats are for the black folks, Republicans are against the black folks, and that's all the narrative, no research or anything like that. And thankfully, reading into the likes of guys like Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, I got a lot more, perspective as to, who creates a lot of the things that I see that are issues, within a community, and, who facilitates that. And you look at a lot predominantly, not a lot, every predominantly black neighborhood or city or anything like that. It's ran top to bottom by Democrats. It's not Republicans in them. So it really just changed my sort of perspective. But as a lot of youngsters, definitely not only being a youngster, but also being a young black person, that was the route that I had went in campaigning for them. And obviously, looking at it now, it's like, what the hell was I doing?
Right. Yeah. I guess you can only go so far.
Right.
You can't go beyond what you've been taught is what I've heard. So we all have to kind of, as we get older, get past the things that we learned as young people and start seeing the world in maybe a bigger perspective. You mentioned Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, and they're two super brilliant guys. And so what got a young man who was campaigning for Obama to that point where he was reading Thomas Sowell? I mean,
it's
what was
funny.
that transition?
It's so funny because I, taking economics classes out of college and got intrigued by the subject, right? But even being stuck in a box, I wanted to know about, other economists and, their view on life and just things in general. But I want to know about the black economists, and there's not a whole lot of them around. But the very, very accomplished ones, some of the two, probably the most accomplished black economists, are Walter Williams and Thomas Sowell. Thank God. And it was like reading definitely even the first page of Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell when he goes into the concepts of scarcity and all of that. It just really it's a mind blowing sort of thing. And Walter Williams and both of them, Sowell and Williams, but Williams in particular, with things like the State Against Blacks and things he's been talking about for decades. And I just got it like that. And it sucks because you feel like you've been fed a way, because you have, been fed a lie for your entire life. And it was just a mind-blowing sort of experience for me. And thank God I came across those two guys, because again, them in combination really just changed my entire perspective and got me thinking along different lines than what I had been previously taught about and really indoctrinated upon. So thank God for, of course, Sowell and Williams. Ironically enough, I finally met one of them, Walter Williams. I took a picture with him everything. Got to talk with him when he was out in Dallas at SMU, and that made my day. And it's funny because I was at that event, and everybody like, oh man, it's Eric July, and I'm like, it's Walter Williams. You know what I mean? So people are trying to take a picture with me as I'm trying to go take a picture with Walter Williams, because that's the celebrity in the house, not me. But he is awesome. I got to finally, that was on my bucket list. I really, because these are older guys. These guys are in the 80s. So I wanted to be able to, before any of those guys passed, to be able to tell them, face to face, at least one of them, to be able to tell them, that it almost single-handedly, for the most part, they got me thinking a different way. And that's how impactful that sort of their work is.
Right. So did you have sort of a light bulb moment then as you're reading that? Was it more of a gradual change?
No, it wasn't it was a light bulb. That certainly was a light bulb, because when you start to recognize, everything is economic, everything is economic, and you realize, that, you understand the concepts of scarcity, and then you understand how government has been, and this is what Sowell did and he did this so early on in this read, Basic Economics. It's a simple read, but it's not short. And he did this so early on, where he's talking about, the concepts of scarcity and how government has been used historically, to try to offset these concepts of scarcity. And often they derail entire economies or derail geographical areas, lowering the living standards, increasing poverty through that sort of infiltration. And it puts it into perspective when you look at, more specifically in my case, like the Democratic Party, we're going to help you, we're going to help you, we're going to help you, all these laws, regulations, and you start to realize, how these really affect the areas that you're in, and not just the areas you're in, the areas abroad. But that's what Sowell did such a good job doing, and it clicked like that, because then you start connecting the dots. Once you realize, all right, what is scarcity, or why is government bad? They can't really offset, any of this, and obviously they're not efficient as opposed, or in turn, to the market, because you might have a market full of thousands and millions of people acting voluntarily, dictating prices, and government can't do that. You can't have a handful of bureaucrats really dictating those prices. So you start connecting the dots with people in power, and they're trying to influence, these areas, these geographical areas, and these cities, and these towns. And again, they're lowering living standards in the process. And as one thing leads into another, and I went down. It was like that once it clicked, and then it's like, all right, wait a minute. Well, let's apply this sort of logic here, and let's apply it there. Let's apply it there, and it just all started making sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the Matrix when Neo sees the code there. You know, it's sort of that moment where you start like that sunesis moment where your brain just kind of figures it out, and the world looks different. It really does.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things we talk about, there's lots of conspiracy theories out there, right? But one of the things that I think when we say the state works against us, many times it's not guys in a back room deciding, well, we're going to do this and we're going to get them. It's the way the whole system works together for people who have power, the self-interest to keep that power. And then all of those, those government agencies or departments, whatever, working together, and it kind of conspires against us. So
people think it's like easy as some, a couple of guys just pulling strings, and no, it's not necessarily like this. It's just like you said, it's individuals getting in these positions of power, and they're wanting to keep their positions of power, and they want to politic, and it kind of, like you said, the system is just kind of ever going thing, and it's a little more thicker than just simple as some guy, a handful of guys just pulling everybody's strings. Not necessarily like that, just like you said.
Well, during this transformation that you had, and maybe still even now, what do your family or friends who aren't of the libertarian persuasion, do they think you've lost your mind? Or
yeah, they wouldn't tell me, because they know how itching I am to get in that argument in the event that but yeah, you can kind of sense that sort of energy in which they're like, man, this guy did a lot changing. But my family it's funny because my family on one side, maybe more particular my mom's side, we make it a point to really not talk. They make it a point to not ever really go politic anyway. But it's funny, on my other side, my dad, my father's side, we talk politics and stuff every now and then. You find a lot of agreement within it, and it's funny that I think Trump was the guy that kind of just woke everybody up to thinking other lines, even if they're still wrong. There's multiple wrong ways of thinking. But it's so funny. I remember vividly. I believe it was Christmas, and I was on my grandmother's, and at her house, and we were all talking. They're talking about Democratic Party, the bad things that they did, and it's funny because not actually my cousin's husband, and him and I were talking, and they were talking about how the Democratic Party, I didn't even, again, this is unprovoked by me, this is something I just realized, and talking about how the Democratic Party had emphasized, whether it be through immigration, more sort of Hispanic and Latino population over the the interests of black people. And even though the black people are the ones that are really every election just handing out their vote, it started to click with them, like, man, they got all these other laws passed and stuff like that for them, whether it be like with illegal immigration, quote unquote. But that's how it worked. It started clicking with them, like, all right, well, these guys don't maybe necessarily have what's in my best interest. They just using me to really get in a position of power. So again, their positions may still be wrong, but it started to click with them. But a lot of them think I'm the loony one out of the bunch, because I'm the one that said screw all of this. You know what I mean? Like this whole entire back and forth sort of those guys versus those guys, like screw them all for the most part. And they think I'm a loony one because I'm the one that says, maybe the government, no, not maybe the government shouldn't even, or the state as we know it shouldn't even exist. And they're like, whoa, wait a minute, we can't go that far. So they think I'm a loony one out of the bunch.
Yeah, it's hard to get. Most people want to fix the system. They keep focusing on the system, and really, it's a new system needs to be made. The system is broken, and it's not just broken because we didn't follow the Constitution. We could go back to the Constitution today or tomorrow, and it would still government grows that way. The state grows that way.
It goes the other way. So
so we just need a new system. I know when, and I remember when this was going on, I remember reading about it. When you came out and started kind of talking about these policies, about Obama, about, just kind of outside the box thinking for, off the plantation, as they say. I hate to use that phrase, but it seems like a lot of black folks are still like tied in so much to especially the Democratic Party, but the system. When you started speaking out about that, people were really nasty and vicious. Oh yeah,
you get some of the most violent. This is what I've said for the longest. That you want to find true racism, it's not necessarily not saying that isn't racist, whether it be a Klansman or something like that. But some of the most vile things it said, not even on the black people that are, it's not even about, you can be black conservative, black libertarian, black anarch, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't sort of perpetuate this leftism, they'll call you some ugly names. And it's sad because, you know, again, with me, it's like whatever, you know what I mean? Because I have a way of really turning that back on them, because they always love to point towards these, and this is the weird part about it, these historical sort of, you know, examples. And it's like, you know, why would you guys cling to that same system that you claim, you know, that you claim did you so wrong? But they perpetuate this idea that we need government, you know, in these aspects of people's lives, and more importantly, the wrongdoing that they felt that they've done. They think that the government should be used to, I guess, reverse that sort. So all we just got to do is get this guy in the, and then he'll use the position of power to try to reverse. And they don't understand. They don't understand what that implies. They don't understand the implications of what that actually means, and who is unfortunately made to pay for that when, in the event that they are advocates of that. So it's about, you know, trying. That's what the approach that I've been trying to do, is getting them to understand, even acknowledge some of these historical examples are just really ridiculous, but a lot of these, they at least have some sort of legitimacy to them. So it's about, with me turning it back on them, like, all right, well, you just said all of these things about, you know, the government. You think the government's doing that? Because I don't get involved too much. For example, this whole, they act as if black people are just being gunned down by cops all the time. Like, that's, look, like, I don't have to, I can be against cops, you know what I mean, without having to perpetuate this nonsensical narrative that they're just shooting black people just to be shooting black people. You know, no statistical sort of evidence really points to that. I mean, the fact of the matter is I'm more likely to get gunned down by another black private citizen than it is the cop. But let's assume that these narratives are true. Why are we giving these positions? Why we want to give them more power? Why are we wanting to put our faith in these? This is what happens with this gun control thing, and it's just weird to see a lot of black folks standing side by side with white leftists being advocates of further gun control after last week having said that the government is this big bad person that's out to get black people, and they either over police or they under police, which I think happens a lot of the case when, you know, with the quote unquote under policing. What I mean by that is that obviously the cops or the police or the law enforcement has a territorial monopoly on this concept of justice, and you get a lot of things that happen in these hoods, in these neighborhoods, with that are, you know, whether it be with murder, homicide, theft, all of this sorts of things that no justice has ever found. They're not even trying. The cops aren't even trying to say, all right, well, we'll go find this guy that did this bad thing. Actual acts of aggression. That's what I mean. I don't mean under policing as in, you know, it's just that unfortunately they have a territorial monopoly on justice. So, you know, if you carry out the justice, or you and a bunch of private citizens carry out the justice, you're all gonna fucking go to jail. So it's very unfortunate. So, but the key with these guys, at least in my approach, is just acknowledging at least some of their narratives, even if I don't believe them to be true. I'm like, all right, let's assume that it is true. Why do you want to give these positions power, more legitimacy?
Yeah, it's been really interesting with the Florida school shooting and all of that, you know, the walkouts and everything, where they've really hyper focused on this because it suits their narrative and the kids are, you know, involved. And it's like this schizophrenia that so often, I mean, we see in American culture, where now you have leftists who want to take guns away from people that hate Trump, that want to give him all the power, you know, give the state all the guns. It makes no sense. It's really strange. Illogical. We live in strange times.
Yeah, it's illogical. Like, I don't, that part, I was on Doc Thompson's show talking about that exact point. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. You guys will say these things, and definitely these leftists who dramatize, you know, it's like a lot of that stuff is dramatized for the most part. And even if it is true, it's like they take it like way, you know, they're very obnoxious with it. So if we're assuming this stuff to be true, Trump is the next Hitler. It's like, okay, why in the hell would you want to get guns, certain sorts of weapons, definitely for those that you feel that are high powered? Why would you want to get those out of the hands of of private citizens if if you indeed feel as if the next coming of Hitler is right there and he has the presidency. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And in every one of those situations, Hitler, Mao, Stalin, all of them, they all took guns away from people first.
Yep.
And then they implemented their strategy. So it's like they only want to look at history. They only want to look at different shootings, things that fit the narrative. And the right does it too. I thought it was really interesting that, in the school shooting that happened after the one in Florida, where the security or police officer that was there actually shot the person shooting, not a word. And it was from kind of the left and the right, because the left, because it didn't suit their narrative that a guy with a gun could save people, and the right, because the back the blue mentality, that would mean they would have to criticize the cops in Florida who didn't go in. Yeah. So there's a real strange dichotomy that goes on in these situations that are hyper publicized.
Absolutely. No, they absolutely like gravitate towards these scenarios that fit their narrative. And this is what happened, was going down with the gun control thing right now, and that the left is using, let's just call it what it is. They're pimping these kids out, man, to really use them to further their agenda. And it's so unfortunate. They're using them to further their agenda, which is why you got guys like this David Hogg kid who just became a celebrity overnight, not for anything that he necessarily did, but because he just happened to be in a vicinity of a shooting. Nothing happened to him. So he's standing on the bodies of his dead classmates, and everybody's giving him a platform to really get out there and perpetuate this garbage, because that's what it is. It's trash. And that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. It fits the narrative. Oh, we're trying to save the kids, and Democrats, we're all about the kids. We're all about the kids. So we're going to gravitate towards the situation, and we're going to boost this guy up in the process. This sort of this stature. And we'll give him a Twitter verification. We'll do all of this stuff for him, and we'll have him. I'm like, how in the hell does he even have time to go to school? Because every time I turn around, he's on MSNBC. He's on some sort of platform, regurgitating his garbage, and often it's going unchallenged. And when you do challenge it, which I don't give a crap, you do challenge it. Oh yeah, he's a kid. He can't say it. I'm like, nah, man, this dude. I think he's a senior. He's about to be 18. If he's not 18 already, nah, it's for. Even if he wasn't, it's for a ball game. You don't get to intrude on people's, be an advocate of intruding on people's rights. And just fall back. Oh, I'm just a kid. Nah, homie, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
You're the aggressor, and I've seen women who will attack a man, and then he finally defends himself, and he's abuser. He's an abuser.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Like, if you initiate that aggression, then you should be expecting that to be returned to you.
It's for a ball game, baby. There's no sort of
that David Hogg guy has no clue, because he's advocating for this gun control, they're calling it, which really they want the guns gone. Yep. But then he's upset about the clear backpacks because they have a right to privacy. So clearly he does not understand what he's talking about. And he is a kid. That's the point. So just because you're the victim of something doesn't make you an expert on the solution.
Yeah, it doesn't click, right? it never clicks, right? It's like you gave the government that inch. You wanted them to do something. We got to stop this. All right, cool. Now we're going to be more direct. Or more so impede on something that kind of greatly affects you, and now it's like, wait a minute, we didn't want this. This is too much. Like, no. This is what you signed up for, man. This is how government and how statism and definitely being in these public schools. This is how it works. This is exactly how it works. So, of course, like you said, he doesn't understand what he's talking about. And I believe that the people actually know that. The people that sort of again giving them this sort of platform.
The handlers.
They know that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's just that they can use that to really further whatever agenda that they have, because it's like, oh, look at this kid right here. He experienced this traumatic event, and he's saying what we've been saying for the longest. So now go listen to him. And it's unfortunate because they are really pimping out these kids.
Right. It is. I think pimp is the appropriate word as well.
Yeah, for sure. It is. That's what it is. Pimp.
So how do you, someone told me today as I was preparing for this that he had recently said, David Hogg, that he is using his white privilege to speak out for Black people against gun crime. I just wondered what you thought about that.
I didn't even hear about it till I saw a video got shared by Coleon Noir with the NRA of him talking about it. And I looked in, I was like, this dude didn't just say that. But it does go to show white leftist arrogance, because that's what it is, arrogance. It's like, oh, well, I need your white behind to speak for me. Like,
Right.
what kind of silliness is that? You know what I
Right.
mean? And goes back to the arrogance. It goes back to how they really truly at the core. You want to talk about racism? You know,
Yeah.
at the core, when they really feel like they are higher beings, more
The
blessed
soft
beings, the soft
bigotry of low
bigotry. That's what it is.
expectations.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And they think that, well, we gotta speak up. Like, I don't need, for one, I'm black, and I don't even agree with you. First and foremost, I don't want you, you know, and you damn sure don't speak on my behalf. But it goes to show the arrogance of these guys, because that's what
Yeah.
they do. A lot of leftists do that. I've experienced this. It's like, oh well. And then when I say, you get a guy like me that says, oh well, he's not the black guy that we want to listen to. Like, you can't listen to him. Go trust this white leftist over him, because he's the one that is saying what's in the interest of the black community, or what's in the interest of black folks. And the fact that a lot of black leaders, whatever you want to call them, haven't been able to sniff this out. And I'm not the first one, and I won't be the last one that's been saying it.
Right.
Malcolm X talking about this years ago, talking about white liberals and how they want to use black folks as pawns, you know, to really further, again, their own agenda. This is not anything that started today, but it does go, and it points to really their arrogance and really how they view a lot of black individuals, because they think they're holier than thou. And I can speak on behalf of all of you guys. You know, it's okay. You guys don't have a voice. It's like, dog, it don't work like that. And I didn't ask you to speak on my behalf, and you shouldn't feel. It just goes to show again this arrogance that they have, that they even feel as if they can speak on behalf of an entire, race of people.
And that you're all the same.
Yeah, we're
all
all
black
the same.
people are the same, so we can talk about them as if they're all the same. It's kind of if they even listen to themselves. I don't think they do. They would be shocked at how they sound. I just had an interview with Dan Reed, who's the culinary libertarian is his site, and he told me a story about he had met his wife's, or a coworker of his wife, or a friend of hers, something, and the guy was offended that he had a Seminoles flag, the Florida football team, on behalf of the Native American Seminoles. As a white person, he was offended on their behalf, even though the chief of that tribe had written to that college and said, yeah, sell the flags. He didn't care.
Yeah, he didn't care.
But their optics, it's all about the optics with them. And
that's exactly what it is. And it's not just, it's with a lot of these sports logos and stuff like that. You find a lot of, again, like I said, my family members on that side, they like, I don't give a crap about these logos. And they're like, and when you think about it, it's stupid, because like, no, we don't see white folks getting mad like the Cowboys or the Vikings. You know what I mean? Nobody's getting mad at those logos. You know what I mean? If anything, you love your representation. If anything, that's them recognizing you and whatnot. So the fact that these guys get offended on behalf, this is so offensive. Like, it's so offensive to those sorts of people. It's like, it's arrogance. It's all
and to recognize that, I know a lot of times when I discuss this with people, if you say something like that, they automatically go to the other opposite extreme position that racism doesn't exist, is what you're saying, and that's not at all what we're saying.
Right.
I mean, I think that especially the black community has suffered greatly at the hands of the state, and sometimes I feel like they have, as a whole, as a group, as we just talked about. Kind of a Stockholm syndrome of, or that's the perfect word to describe syndrome. It. Yeah, where their abuser, they're so, what's the word, where you're codependent on your abuser that you can't get away from them, even though they're bad for you. And it's clear, like all the evidence is there, but it's just
and they'll even acknowledge it a lot. Oh, slavery was so bad. Jim Crow laws, everything was so bad. And it's like, all right, well, you recognize that. I mean, who was the one that was, instituting all of this? It was the state. You know what I mean? So why in the hell would you trust this institution to then, in turn, try to look out for you? Like, come on, man. Like, it is Stockholm Syndrome. It is Stockholm Syndrome, because these are some of the biggest advocates, again, 90% plus voting for people that openly want to expand the government. And the fact that, that's not 90. It's not 90% of black people. It's 90% of black people that vote.
Right.
Are going out there and voting for the party that wants to expand. Even if you take it issue by issue, whether it be a gun control and all these other things, these guys will be they're advocates of heavily regulatory government. And even though they will tomorrow point out all the historical evidence of the state being used against them.
Right.
It's kind of crazy. It's crazy. And they often are advocates of policies that are big government policies that, again, hurt them. You know, when you look at not just gun control, minimum wage is the biggest one to me, and how that has historically held. And when it was first, implemented, that's, you look at the Bacon-Davis Act and all of that stuff, it was specifically implemented to price minorities out of the market, not just black people, but women, children as well, to price them because they didn't want to compete with the. I mean, it's happened in Australia. It also happened in South Africa. Like there's so many examples of them. It's more so in Australia. It wasn't with black folks. It was with Chinese immigrants. They didn't want to compete with Chinese labor, so they implemented these laws. So they priced them out because these people were coming here. They had next to nothing. They're like, we'll work for way cheaper than these guys. And they're like, wait a minute, we don't want to compete with this labor, this cheap labor. We got to have these minimum wage laws. And this is why they have historically, and Walter Williams has pointed this out, with black people going to these rotten public schools. The only way they really get experience in the workplace to, be of some sort of value to somebody, gain this sort of experience. The only way they can do that is, they're not getting in school. They're certainly not getting in school, so they got to work. You know what I mean? And these laws do nothing, whether it be age laws, these child labor laws. People say child labor laws. They start freaking out. But these laws are rotten. These laws are rotten. Minimum wage laws are rotten. And going back to the point, it's you have a lot of black people and minority groups that are advocates of laws that have historically hurt them.
Right. Yeah. I think of the AMA as well as a way, to keep black doctors out of that profession, because there were a lot of black doctors that were working within the black community. And those communities came up with solutions on their own, like the medical fraternities, things like that. And those are much better alternatives than what we maybe even have now. But, the state working against people is you really, when you step back and you can see it, you really see the travesty that has been the state aggression against people making their own solutions. So it's pretty sad. But speaking of, just your role, I guess, within the black community, kind of stepping up and, being willing to face that ridicule, you got in an ongoing, I don't think it's going anymore, but with Talib Kweli from Black Star. I saw that on Twitter.
Oh my God, that was...
Yeah. Why did you decide to challenge him in the first place?
Well, it was funny. What happened was I said, so I can't even remember. Oh, I was talking about Eminem. And he, he's on this whole kind of...
he's
social justice tear. I don't know what the hell happened to Eminem. But he's been one of my, favorite, rap artists ever. Like it's not even up for dispute. I've owned every album. And it was, I said, like, on Twitter, I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't buy this after hearing the direction that I'm not going to support this. I'm not going to support this because this is not why I enjoy Eminem. This is not what I'm trying to hear when I go to listen to this guy. Yeah. So I said I wasn't going to buy the record. That's all I said. It wasn't even nothing to me. I was like, he's going full leftist. I'm not buying the record. Simple as that. And somehow he got a hold of that tweet. And he was like, some I forgot what exactly he said, but I guess he didn't open the picture and see that I'm a black guy. So I was like, he said something about white supremacists. I don't know, something like that. And I was like, dude, I'm black. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And so me and we went on this. This is when it started. We went back and forth, and we were talking about, I'm talking about, everything. I'd be like, dude, you do all of this activism and stuff, and then, you're now, because we got talking about government and stuff like that. And I'm like, you do all this activism stuff, and he's flooding, I go speak to this prison and all of this. I'm like, dog, you asking me basic level 1, basic B questions about the government talking about who gonna build the roads and all of that stuff. You're an advocate of taxes. Get out of my face. And so we're arguing back and forth about that. But the reason why I was so adamant about going back and forth, even though again he initiated this conflict, is because I'm pointing something out here. It's like you get all these conscious guys, guys that you think would know better, and they don't even know better. Guys that I'm a fan. I was a fan of Talib. And even though his music that doesn't really change, but it's like you get these guys you think are conscious. You think they get it. They don't speak this garbage that a lot of these other rap artists do. So you think they get it. He don't get it. He's still on level one. He's still on level one. It's just the same old nonsense. He still doesn't have it figured out. He just recognizing he'll talk about some of the things that the state may be doing that is bad, and he has this, unfortunately, this hyper emphasis on racism. So really, the only way that he can recognize that something that he sees something is bad is if it has a racist outcome. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't, or in disparity. This is what a lot of black folks do, are definitely in positions of power, whether it be through black leadership, or with not just of parties, just of black organizations and stuff like that, where they look at disparity. You hear these people always talking about prison disparity in this field, disparity over there. That's the only time they can see something as bad as when it's disparity. Because if we were all getting our asses whooped equally, then it's like, oh, well, it's not a problem here. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show that these people don't get it. So that's, obviously I was a background behind the back and forth, but why I really was challenging him, and I called him out. I called him out so many times, like, this went for like 3 days. I'm like, dude, you've been going back and forth with me for 3 days on this issue. I will go to your platform of your choosing. I would debate you live on this topic, statism, and I would most definitely exercise exactly how you're completely incorrect and how you are doing things that are diametrically opposed to what you claim to be an advocate of. And he always thought, oh, well, I don't need to be giving you time to time of day to be talking, but you've been going back and forth with me on Twitter. Like, what's up with that? So they and it also goes to show that the echo chamber. These guys will get on Twitter, tweet all day long so they can have their followers, in somebody's attacking somebody. But when it comes to actually really getting out there and having to have some honest, cordial dialogue about the topic, that's when they start, this sort of, we just talking about the Matrix. That's how they start, they dodging those bullets, because they'd rather be in that sort of echo chamber so they can talk back and forth with people that already, for the most part, agree with them on every single issue, rather than having a challenge, like, because that doesn't work for him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the one out of both of us. I'm the one that's really against the state. I'm the one that is also smart enough to acknowledge some of these really talk about some of these problems that you also highlight. And I think, and I'm also not white, so you can't fall back on, well, it's just another white dude falling. But I know he recognizes that as a threat, and this is why he didn't want to have that sort of dialogue. But even with a lot of these musicians, man, they don't get it. You think they get it, and they don't get it at all.
Yeah, the friend that pointed that out to me, because he knew I was a fan of yours, and he's like, oh, I've been watching this thing on Twitter with Eric July and Talib, and he was just like so impressed with you. He's like, that guy is smart. And so I thought that was really great, though. And you earned a fan there, but do you think that it hurt you in some ways, or do you think that
not at all.
They've rejected you so much it doesn't?
No, I mean, I don't think it hurt me. I think that I can always obviously point back to that in the event that I meet this guy some sort down a line, whether it be on the rap side of things or whether it be from the just from an activist side of things, and we cross paths. I'm always gonna bring that up and be like, dude, this is what you asking me who gonna build the roads and all of this other stuff, me and you have been going back and forth. So I don't think it hurts me. I'm not one of those guys that will. It's funny. The only time I decline to show up to people's platforms is I've done this more specifically with the right, and I've only done this with the right. Let's be completely honest with it, and that I'm not gonna be anybody's like mouthpiece.
Right.
So you might get an issue where we might see eye to eye on something, and you think, oh, well, let's get a black. It's kind of like what the left does with David Hoggs of the world.
Right. Yeah.
They don't get the luxury of you, which is why I've been on pretty much almost every single major platform. Like, and they'll call me on there, and from the right, excuse me.
Right.
And
it's like,
I only
let's
do
get
it
a
like
black
once.
guy to agree with us.
Yeah, exactly. But I only do that once, like, or twice. You know what I mean? And I only do it with specific individual. Like before Tucker Carlson had his own show, that's when I was on Fox and Friends with him talking about it. But I've been hit up by guys that work with that same network, and I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, no, I decline. But, if somebody wants to get me on like some platforms, like, hey, we want you to just have a honest dialogue with so-and-so. Oh, no, I'm not. I don't decline that at all. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it 100%. But leftists, they don't ever hit me up. It's funny. Like, people are like, man, I love to see you on MSNBC or something like that, or doing something, I'm like, they don't call me. They don't reach out to me. The only people that seem to reach out to me are the left. Or people on the right that do want, or it's just other libertarians and stuff like that. These guys, for the most part, they like, oh man, we got to stay away from this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I do not sit in echo chambers. I will get out there and I will honestly, defend my positions cordially, no disrespect or anything like that. Just being adults about the situation. I would do that. I would do that.
Yeah.
Anytime if I'm not like on tour or got my own thing going, like if it aligns, man, let's get out there and let's do it, because I don't believe in sitting in some echo chamber with a bunch of people that agree with you and sort of, excuse my language, circle jerk thing that kind of goes on with a lot of this. It happens even in our circles. It happens in libertarian and anarchist circles as well, where they are so dead set on impressing and being in and argue or talking with other people that already think like them, that they don't even get out there and really to challenge the ideas of people that are on the opposite side of things and having that sort of honest dialogue. And that's the negative thing that I find with social media, unfortunately, because it brought libertarians together, but it has a lot of people thinking that we're a lot bigger than what we are, because we're talking to the same people, a lot of people that agree with us. And when you get out there in the real world, honestly, and this is just, from a self-criticism standpoint of our community, of our movement, we're completely irrelevant, because whether it be with the duopoly with the two parties and they're dominating ideas, we just not really out there like that. You know what I mean? So, but in order for us to get out there, we have to get out there and really have those conversations with people that we already know on our side.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think I've seen it a lot in, especially in the anarcho-libertarian community, where, like, you'll have a Tom Woods called a racist because he won't sign something that says, all that stuff that went down. And then people... I have seen people make some really disparaging remarks about you as if you're their, Tom Woods' mouthpiece or the Mises Institute's mouthpiece, and or other people demonizing people in leftist libertarian circles. It happens, and I think, why don't we agree? Like, we all want the state to end. Why can't we work on that? Like, and if we can agree that things are voluntary, then you're not my enemy. Like, you can live however you want. If you want to live on a commune, I'm perfectly down with that, as long as you're not trying to force me to do it or force me to pay for it. So I think we could really go a lot further than we do sometimes.
Yeah, no, again, we have these sort of circles and I've had some people within even our community say some of these negative things, people that I agree with 99% of the time on certain issues, but it's kind of weird. But it just goes to show that libertarians aren't above this sort of tribalism as well. Like, they're not above that either. A lot of them participate, and it's funny, these guys, these be the main people, so anti-collectivist, and they will get out there and they think that everybody has to agree on everything. Like, and my thing, and this is, I've said things about race, not just with statism, but racism and stuff like that, and the concept of race. And how, like, I don't jump to, like, you don't see me pearl clutching at racism at all. I've never been, I was that guy when I was a leftist, but I'm not that guy. My thing is, like, as long as, just like what you said, as long as it's voluntary, like, you thinking some kind of way about me because I'm black, I ain't gonna lose no sleep for that, unless you, like, are trying to use force, or more so the initiation of force aggression on me because I'm black. That's a completely different thing. But, I don't, like, segregation, I think, all those things, those aren't necessarily, like, demonizing terms to me. You know what I mean? If people, if a bunch of black, because I see this definitely in the communities that I was growing up in. These are self-segregated areas where black people just want to be around a bunch of black people. Who the hell am I to say, can't do that. Like,
Right.
you know, like if that's something that you want to do, you know what I mean? Whether I agree, I might express like and say, all right, well, I don't think that's the best idea, but it's not anti-libertarian for you to think along those lines.
Right.
So as long as you're voluntarily wanting to have that sort of community or that sort of relationship with other individuals. And the same goes for the other. This is a lot of times they'll acknowledge that, but when you start mentioning white people, like this is why everybody's so offended at white nationalism and stuff like that. When you start saying, all right, well, maybe they should be able to, not maybe, they should be able to self-segregate from black folks or Hispanics or whatever the hell they want. So as long as it's voluntary, that's their right to do that. When you start saying that, that's when they're like, oh, well, wait a minute. You can't say that. That's wrong and stuff like that. And it's like, I thought this was about voluntarism. I thought this was about people being able to, because this is what I think about libertarianism. I think it's obviously about private property rights and people being able to do whatever the hell they want, so as long as they are using aggression upon another individual. We do not, it's not about thinking alike. It's not about this whole sort of egalitarian, everybody's looks at everybody colorblind. Like that ain't what it's not what it's about. It has nothing to do with libertarianism. Libertarianism is about private property rights. You know what I mean? So, you know, people are going to gravitate towards people that they may agree with. It's sometimes not going to be against race. It might be a community full of gamers like that are like, look, we just want to live around a bunch of people that video game all the time, or we want to live around a bunch of people that, adopt this sort of human affair. Those sorts of communities are going, definitely if the state is abolished, not necessarily abolished, but the state doesn't exist and people acknowledge that as an illegitimate form of existence, there are going to be communities that are going to, the people are going to gravitate towards communities that they, or towards people and build communities with people that they more so agree with as opposed to disagree with. As long as it's voluntary, that is what it's about. And that to me is the more so the dialogue, which is why when I go talk to, if I go talk to a white nationalist or I go talk to a black nationalist, which a lot of those guys are often the same, and people act like the black ones don't exist. Oh yeah, they very much well exist. And when I talk to them, I'm like, look, the idea is that you guys want you want to be away from these guys, correct? Yeah, on the other side, they say the same damn thing. All right, cool. So how about we start adopting libertarianism, and then you guys can go do whatever the hell you want. They can go do whatever the hell you want. So as long as y'all hate each other's guts, fine, whatever. As long as y'all ain't shooting it out with each other only because of that, then fine. Y'all go do y'all own thing. And that's, to me, is what it's about. And I think that's how we influence people to be libertarians. It's not about it. And the left libertarian approach is just nonsensical. We're all, equal. We got to fight racism that has stuff that has nothing to do with libertarianism. I do not think that is an effective way to spread liberty. I think the most effective way to spread liberty is recognizing that people can do whatever the hell they want. That way you don't even have to go to their level, and they don't have to think like you at all. Only thing they have to do is acknowledge the concept of private property rights, and they can do whatever it is they want. So it's like getting them to realize that, okay, you can't be using the state to try to implement these sorts of ideas that you want to implement, and having other people fall victim to this sort of world that you want to build in your own image. That's not right. You can live like that, however, with a bunch of people that do maybe think like you, and y'all can voluntarily set up your own community or area, geographical area, in which y'all think like that. But you can't force people to be a part of that. And it doesn't matter what the human affair is, what the culture is. That to me is the more effective approach, as opposed to getting the not trying so hard. This is what left libertarians try so hard to get the or just demonize every racist and get them to stop being racist and stuff like that. To me has nothing to do with libertarianism. That to me that's a very uphill battle. That's fine. Like some people, you get people that say that are racist that are no longer racist. I think, however, the best way to do that is the economics behind it, because it's not really economic to be a racist. Definitely in an area. Definitely in an area where other cultures and other sorts of ethnic backgrounds exist. It's not really economic. This is why I would much rather a sign be put up, and this is what gets me in a lot of trouble with a lot of black folks, because I'm like, abolish the Civil Rights Act, because that is violating people's right to private property. I would much rather some white racist business owner have a sign that says no whites, no blacks allowed, because why the hell would I walk up in that? Because what all the Civil Rights Act does is say, well, no, you have to forcefully you got to take my money. Even though you don't want my black money, you got to take my money. Like, that's silly. Like, no. I would much rather, you put it out there. So I'm like, oh, okay, these people don't like black folks. I know not to give them my dollar, and I will hurt them where it hurts the most, and that is their pocket. So, that's my advice to a lot of left libertarians. Like, if you want to really combat racism, then focus on the capitalism, focus on the private property rights, because again, in a lot, definitely like in America's case, where it's just a lot of different, ethnic backgrounds, cultures, and stuff like that, it might not be the most economically sound little way to, I guess, adopt rule to adopt in really just outlawing,
and
or not necessarily outlawing, but just not wanting to deal with people that are. It's their right to do that, and that's the trick. Is getting the people to realize that it is their right to do that, and we can voice our disagreements. We don't have to, and on the other hand, you don't have to deal with these sorts of individuals. It's all about just not using aggression upon them.
Right. I think, a few things. One is that people do underestimate the power of the market to bring people together, and how the state actually creates more resentment by forcing integration than letting it happen naturally. Because, when I'm forced to accept someone for any reason, I'm automatically, more like, why am I being forced to do this? But if I can have a mutual reason that we come together and, I get to, like, it makes more sense to have that economic incentive, because that really works for everyone. And you see it in the world right now in our country. You have, like, say, the Amish. Nobody's up in arms and screaming about the Amish living off on their own. And it's because they've cut themselves off for a different reason. So what makes them cutting themselves off for, if they were white and they wanted to, or black and they wanted to separate, why is that any different in that way? As long as, like you said, they're not advocating violence against those people. They just want to close themselves off. Well, you have a right to be wrong. So
absolutely,
and your communities, I think, would probably go more stagnant, and you'd have to trade, and that would eventually break down.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I think you're exactly right about that. But I didn't intend to spend the whole, conversation talking about race. But
it's all
so
good.
great
That's
to
how it
have
kind of
you
works
on and talk about that stuff. It's really refreshing to be able to talk to people who, that's not their main focus in life, is how I've been victimized. Like, I deal with a lot of women that way.
I can imagine.
The patriarchy and, how they're victims of everything. And I'm like, you're not a victim. Okay, you can stand this, or something bad happened to you, yes, but that doesn't make you a victim forever. You don't have to live in that space, and there's something so freeing about that. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I did want to ask you. I got a lot. People wanted to know when you're touring and when you're going to come to their area, when you're coming to Europe, when you're coming to California. I want to know when you're coming to Tennessee or close by. Like, any plans for that?
So we are in a transitionary period, and obviously it's a year removed from our first debut album, and now we're gearing up for the next album. So we're gonna be on the road again. We're having some kind of organizational changes as well with Backwards that we're doing in the background to try to obviously put forth that plan to start getting things going. So it'll be soon. Right now, obviously, we're doing conferences, little one-off conferences every now and then, one-off shows, stuff like that. Like we're doing Pork Fest here in a couple of months, which will be fun. So so we will be doing a lot of those, and then we'll at some point be on a tour. I know people in Europe have been like screaming for us to get out there, and hopefully we can get out there soon. But
they
most
love
definitely,
metal over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So most definitely, hopefully we can get out there soon. Obviously doing some U.S. tours and really getting that sort of stuff going. I mean, it's just a matter of making sure we get all the background stuff going. We just dropped the cover. I got this mixtape and stuff on the way. So you're not going to be without music by any means. But yeah, it's just, we're a year removed finally. And, now we implemented, we had a successful release. So the idea is obviously to continue to grow. So with that idea, we got to put forth a plan. So that's what we're doing right now. A lot of stuff in the background that we can't even really go on record to say, but we will be back on the road soon. And I really hope to see a lot of these, a lot of people, because it's fun. That to me is what it's about. Even though we don't tour, we don't necessarily tour with libertarians. And
Right.
we've never actually done that. We've never toured with other libertarian like bands or anything like that. But it's
Right.
cool to see that sort of representation. Once we get there, and we're on a tour on a ticket with a bunch of other non-libertarian bands, or at the very least, they don't emphasize it if they are. To see all those guys show up to the shows, and to see the other crowd that didn't maybe come for us, to see them so stoked
Right.
on this it's sort of awesome to see from the stage, to see that
Yeah.
sort of people mingling together with each other like that. And then we always get people obviously after the show to say, man, I really agree with what you said on stage, here and there. They just want to
Yeah.
talk about liberty, man. So that's what it's about. But we'll be back on
Yeah.
the road soon enough. But yeah, just doing some stuff in the background, and I really do obviously appreciate a lot of the support that we've had over the year, man, to really make that our first release of Veracity, our debut album, to be as
It's a
successful as it was.
fantastic album. I
Oh,
love
thank you.
it. And I love
Thank
the
you.
Ripa's raps that you do too
Yeah,
online. And
those are
the
fun.
covers have been amazing.
Thanks.
The Bye Bye Bye.
Yeah.
Like I was floored at that cover. It is amazing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
and I'm super excited too because I am going to be at Pork Fest this year, and I'm going to get to go
Awesome.
to your show. So I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
That'll be fun.
I've been wanting to do it. I guess they've been 15 years. They've been doing it. Have you
Yeah.
been before?
No, I haven't. I haven't been for Pork
Yeah.
Fest, so this is going to be awesome. I'm going to be, we'll obviously be performing. I'll be speaking there as well. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun
Yeah.
event. I've heard a lot about Pork Fest, unfortunately, because I'm way in Texas, so it's on the opposite
Right.
side of the country. So I haven't really been able to make my way over there. So this will be my first year there, and we're doing it big. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm really excited to see that. I know that you were described by Tom Woods, which I think is somebody we both probably admire.
Oh yeah.
At his 1000th episode event, he called you an unapologetic libertarian.
Yeah.
And to me that was like such high praise, and he doesn't just say things that he doesn't mean. So I thought that was really high praise. And
Yeah,
it
he's awesome.
really inspired me to do the same, to be more outspoken about my own libertarianism and about the things that I believe. And I think you've done a fantastic job of doing that and being an inspiration to so many of us. So I certainly appreciate you coming on the show today, and look forward to maybe doing it again sometime.
Absolutely. Anytime. Appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm.
And, anytime you want to do it again, let's do it.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Eric. Take care.
All right. You too. Thank you.